to take one of those down there.
Is there a sweet one out there?
No, the Alice don't allow it.
Alice.
Alice at the Palace.
Alice at the Palace. Don't allow it.
Wardrobe lady done them laying around and the mice get into them. So
Oh, that's interesting.
hides it.
You ready, boys?
I'm ready, sir.
All right. Did you ever really hang around Nashville too much back in the 70s?
Hang around Nashville too much? I don't know, maybe there's something in that. Not really that much. No, I was so busy in the 70s, I was traveling most of the time. I would come down and spend some time with some friends of mine once in a while, but I recorded mostly down in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. So.
We always considered you one of us in Nashville, though. I mean, Country Music Association Award winner, but we just hadn't seen too much of you in the last 15 years.
Well, I've lived in California for the last 25 years. Actually, more than that, I guess 26 years. And but I would pass through there, and I've cut a couple of albums in Nashville, and I've got a lot of friends there. So.
Has this play given you the show business bug again?
Yeah, I needed it. I've been retired for the last 3 years, and you can only play golf so much. And I really, this thing came up, and I turned it down. I was just determined to stay retired, and I turned it down a couple of years ago, and then it came up again. I turned it down, and then my wife found out about it, and she said, you know, you got to be nuts, because it's the only thing you've never done. And she says, you know, you've written hits for other artists, and you've got gold records on your own and gold albums on your own, and you had your own network television show, and you co-starred in a hit movie, you played headline at big hotels, and da-da-da, and she went on, and she says, the only thing you've never done is star in a Broadway play. And she says, you got to do it, if nothing else for the kids, you know, for your grandchildren to be able to say. And she was right. It is something that I should have done. And so I took a nice Will Rogers attitude towards New York and came up here and did it, and I'm enjoying myself.
I bet overall this is the hardest thing you've ever done, because it integrates everything you've ever learned.
I guess it is about the hardest thing. In show business, it's the hardest thing that I've ever had to do, because it's a discipline that I never had before. There's so much concentration and discipline involved in it. If you know, I didn't write it, so I can't stop in the middle of a song and say, oh, wait a minute, I want to do that again. You know, I can't do that. And you've got all these other bodies relying on you back there, and lights and computerized tracks, and not tracks, but click tracks and things that they put the music to. And if you don't, you know, if you mess up, you just have to plow right on through and do it. And it's funny, I find that even now, and I'm pretty comfortable in the role, but after even 3 months now, I'll be congratulating myself, you know, and thinking, oh boy, the show's just about over, and I'm doing real good tonight, and da-da-da, and I'd go, oh wait, I'm supposed to say something here, you know, and next thing you know, you've just blown it. And so you have to really be concentrated for 2 hours and 40 minutes. And,
so did your stomach have a big case of stage fright that first night the curtain went up?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Had you
yes.
felt that feeling in a long time?
Nope.
It's not too much fun either, is it?
I used to get, I actually never got stage fright except on the opening night in like Las Vegas or someplace, when I had put together a brand new show. And we would spend like 3 weeks or something putting together a new act and rehearsing and all that stuff. And opening night I would get the jitters, and then it would be over with after the first show. But this one, I only had 4 weeks to learn the part. And it's like the Bill of Rights put to music, believe me. It's just so many words, and there's so much choreography in it, and you have to play the guitar, and I'm playing to something that somebody else wrote, and the harmonica, and twirling a rope, all these things combined, and on top of that, changing costumes 7 times.
Yeah, you almost have to become a professional stripper, don't you?
Oh, let me tell you, it would be worth the price of a ticket to get to stand backstage and watch me change costumes for 2 hours and 40 minutes. So,
I mean, there's one time you have less, I think, than 30 seconds to change a complete outfit.
Well, there's a couple of times like that, especially the first time I change. First time I change, I have to pants, shirt, hat, bandana, the works, and I have to do that in just about 30 seconds. And it's a train wreck back there. You know, you can have no modesty either. It's right there on stage. You know, everybody can stand there and watch.
Go ahead and get this.
If they're interested. There we go.
First time I met you was at a Billboard radio programming forum at the Century Plaza Hotel, probably in '72. I was a real young programmer, music director of radio stations, probably during the Baby Don't Get Hooked on Me days, whatever year that was.
That was
probably around
72.
We were on CBS, and I was playing a lot of Mac David songs on my college station and also on Columbus, Georgia radio station then. I mean, you were really, really hot then. When was the television show? It was like around that time too?
No, my first television of my own show was 74.
Yeah,
74, 5, and 6.
But all the mid-'70s, I mean, you were hot as a pistol. You were. I mean, you were writing songs for Elvis had come out the previous decade, but they were still carrying on. What did you learn from those days that you've carried on now positively?
Well, I've had so many little, great pieces of advice over the years, and one thing is has always been to be yourself on stage. You know, when you're working, to try to be as honest as you can be. I wasn't always over the years, but the times that I have been has been the most successful that I've been. Because I always took that to heart when I was writing, writing songs. I always try to be honest, as close to real life as you can do and still make it rhyme. That's what I always try to do. And it's the same way on stage, let your feelings out on stage, what you think, how you feel, and let your feelings show, because that's what people want to see. They want to see inside you a little bit. And I think if anything, during those years that made me successful was that I did that. If I felt like jumping and jumping up and down, well, I was, I guess, one of the first country acts to do that. I mean, other than Elvis, of course. Elvis was, but I guess you'd consider him rock and roll. He, even though he was much loved by the country community and still is. But I was a jumper up and down there. Well, that's because that's the way I felt if I wanted to jump and stuff. Garth does that now, and but that's what paid off for me. And it was just going out there and being honest.
I can still two things I remember. One particularly of the making up the songs in the audience. That always impressed me because I was always pretty good with lyrics too, and I always like to challenge myself to do that. Can you still have that talent?
Yeah, I can do it if I want to put myself through that pressure, but I
That's
don't,
pressure,
yeah. Well, that was, I used to tell everybody, we had those silk shirts that we wore with the velvet suits and all that stuff, and all those fancy shirts that they bought for the television show. And when whatever I wore for that segment of the show was ruined. It had to be thrown away. I would sweat them up so much trying to come up with something really good. And of course, with the advent of tape and stuff, what you can do with editing and all, they made me look a lot smarter than I was, because we would tape about 10 or 12 of those songs.
Oh, a revelation here.
Edit it down to the best 3 per show. So
there I was, thought you wrote 3 hits every show. That's what it's supposed to do, though.
Well, hey, 3 out of 10. Actually, some of them that we threw out weren't too bad, but the segment was only long enough to do that. I always wanted to put together a whole special, of all those things, just do one after the other of those, but I don't think it was that hot an idea.
What is your relationship with your old songs? I mean, everything from In the Ghetto to one of my favorite ones, which I don't know that was a very big hit, but I still love it, is Whoever Finds This, I Love You.
Well, they've all got a story behind them, and I still, each one's like a kid. I still, some of them I wish I'd have done them a little different. Sometimes, I've got songs I pull out every now and then. Somebody will remind me of a song that wasn't a hit. And I always had a problem with getting other people to record my songs after I became a successful artist. It's just a syndrome. People say, well, wait a minute, he's trying to get me to record this song, and he didn't put it out as a single, so he must not think it's a hit, But shoot, everything I cut didn't turn to gold, and some of the songs I wrote, I didn't have the voice for them. I put In the Ghetto out before Elvis did. Well, no, I didn't. I'll take that back. I Believe in Music I had out before it became a hit, and it wasn't a hit. But I couldn't get people to record the songs, and I still to this day look back at some of the old songs that I had and think, gosh, still think that's a hit. You know?
There's still some gems in the catalog.
And there's still
in
some
words.
others that I feel like, boy, if I'd have just changed this or that, you know, but that's perfectionism, which I've been guilty of in the past.
Did you ever consider yourself really a country music singer, or were you a popular music singer?
I'm just a singer, you know. I envy and admire country singers like Merle Haggard and Randy Travis and Garth and these guys that, you know, they've got a certain twang to their voice that I just don't quite have. And then you know, on the other hand, I'm not a rock and roller either. I'm not a screamer or what have you. I'm just somewhere in there between. And I do a lot of, back when I was doing concerts, I did a lot of rock and roll in my shows, but and gospel stuff too. But I've just been a guy who, fortunately, could write songs and had a pretty good sense of humor, and I think that's why I was a good entertainer. Not just, I couldn't make it on just my voice alone. I never did feel that way. My voice is stronger right now than it's ever been.
Because
doing
of the practice, yeah.
Just doing this play every night and being forced to sing someone else's songs. And I'm playing with them now and having a little, the more comfortable I get in this role, the more fun I'm having doing the songs.
How about Mac Davis, the movie star? That little, North Dallas 40 is still a good movie. It holds up.
North Dallas 40 was my first movie and the best one that I've done. And I think I made some mistakes after that. I went and grabbed the money and ran. I got offered some leading man roles, and it was good money, but we didn't really look at the people putting them together that well. And one is obvious, The Sting 2, which was a wonderful script and is actually a good film. It was well directed and well done, but every critic already had his first paragraph written before he walked into the movie. You know, Mac Davis is not Robert Redford and Jackie Gleason is not Paul Newman, and so boom, that one went. And the other was a comedy thing that I did that was in poor taste, to say the least. But like I said, I grabbed the money and run. It was a bad career move, but I'm looking to get back into movies now that I've straightened my life out.
How about television shows? Did that Mac Davis show, which I always enjoyed, leave a good taste in your mouth or just wear you out? Like
No,
so many others.
got-
Most people say, Tony Orlando's told me, Barbara Mandrell I know because I've worked for her, it killed them almost doing that thing.
Well, it didn't kill me. I enjoyed doing the show, but I got very frustrated because of what the networks in general and I guess the agencies that put all these things together, what they considered a variety show, quote unquote. You know, to me, it was not a variety at all. It was just a stock format that they did every week, week in and week out. You had a guest on the show who was a singer, and you had a guest who was a comedian or something, and you did these stupid skits, which was just that was supposed to be part of television, and I thought they were ridiculous. I didn't think they were funny, and you know, you can only write. You've got a week to put this together and throw it in there, and I just never felt like I had enough say-so in it, and what the producers thought was funny, I didn't think was very funny, and apparently in Middle America didn't either. But it was the same deal every week. I said, well, you know, let me get some trained elephants here, and get some jugglers, and get some banjo pickers, and get some cloggers, and you know, let's make it a variety show. Let me have Pavarotti on here, for crying out loud, you know, and make it a variety show. And of course, I was singing in those days. My ego wouldn't let me sing anything unless I wrote it. You know, 90% of the stuff, I would do one ballad or something that somebody else wrote. But you get a guest on there, and then it was the obligatory duet. You know, me and Anne Murray, me and Ray Charles. I've got some wonderful video of things, you know, things that I'm really proud of. You know, Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles and all kinds of people that are going to go down in history as the greatest, and there I am singing duets with them. But at the same time, to just have that same format week in and week out, it was a killer, yeah. And I think America got bored with it. Plus, I didn't have a great time slot either. 2 years that I was on, they put me up against the Waltons, and then we begged and begged for another time slot, and so the third year they said okay, and they put us up against Welcome Back Kotter and Barney Miller, which were the two #1 half-hour shows. So, you know.
So did you basically feel like you had been to the top of the mountain and didn't know where you needed to go after that, and that's pretty much made you just say, I'm going to get out of this for a while?
No, not really. I just...
Because you had great success.
No, it was... Let me tell you, I wouldn't take $1 million for what it did. I wouldn't take $100 million for it. I mean, it was great. It quintupled, my album sales quintupled. I became a very visible person during that period, and I had a wonderful life. And I suddenly started drawing, 5 times as many people as I did before, even with the hit records, because that's what television will do for you. And even the #2 show, I became a very visible and popular entertainer in that part of, my life. And I wouldn't take anything in the world for it. So I didn't really get tired of it. We just couldn't get the ratings, and we got canceled after 3 years. But I did a special every year for 10 years. And so we still, I was visible. And I did everybody else's television show that there was at one point or another. So I had a good run there from early 70s to the 80s.
Have you ever figured out what you want to be when you grow up?
Sober and alive.
That's a good start.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at right now, and I'm really, I'd like to take the opportunity to apologize to country music in general and the country fans and to Nashville in general, because the last 3 years of my life, I really just wasn't there. I wasn't there for myself, or my family, or for country music at all. And it's something that I've kind of wanted to do, just say, hey, I'm sorry, but that's over with. And if there's anything I can do, I'm going to change it, because I'm back now. And I'm the Mac Davis that I used to be.
Well, that's why you should be down there, hosting some TV shows and specials and just kind of get back in the ball game again, because country's never been bigger. And you're obviously still as good as you used to be. I've learned that last night. You're every bit of the Mac Davis I saw 20 years ago.
Well, I'm a lot healthier than I was a few years ago.
Older and wiser.
Older and wiser, and got 2 beautiful young boys, and that I wrote a song called "Watching Scotty Grow" one time, and I didn't really get to watch him grow because I was working so hard. And we're just now, after 28 years, becoming good friends. So I've got these 2 little ones coming up now, and I'm not going to make that same mistake. I'm spending time with them and really enjoying my life right now. So if I do, decide to go back on the road and start entertaining again out there, they're coming with me.
Well, I don't think you have to kill yourself, to go out there and do one-nighters again, but I think you do special things and do good things. I mean, there's television to do to communicate, where you don't have to go on the road and play Chillicothe, Ohio.
Well, it all starts with the songs.
Yeah.
And the good news is I've started writing again, and I'm not letting anything out until I've got 10 or 15 really, really good ones written, and then I'm going to put together a spec album, shop it around, put it out, and see what happens. And if I get lucky and get a couple of hits, then we'll go out and gladly do the state fair circuits again and stuff like that, because I miss that. I miss being amongst those people, because I had some wonderful, wonderful times.
What's the fun part about doing the play?
The challenge, doing it every night, and combined with the fact that this is the nicest bunch of people I've ever dealt with. They are, as a whole, I mean, to a man, I guess, to a woman, they are the nicest, sweetest, hardest working troop of people I've ever been around. And everybody gets along, and everybody's supportive, and everybody, it was so funny when they found out that I was taking over the show from Keith. Keith was leaving, Keith Carradine, who was doing the show for him. He kind of ceremoniously passed me the ropes one night, before they left, and this whole crew back here stood up and cheered like just a standing ovation. All these, 20 beautiful women and all the grips and crew backstage, and it was really moving, because they knew what I'd been going through for 4 weeks, trying to learn this thing. So they had like 6 months to put it together in the beginning, and I had to learn it in 4 weeks. And of course, there was a train wreck the first 2 or 3 weeks too. But the point I'm making is that these people just were so supportive, and it's really fun working with them.
There's the old song, "There's no people like show people." Did you find that out pretty much? I mean, probably didn't know much about these kind of people.
Yeah, it's different. Let me tell you, it's here I am, from Lubbock, Texas, and I'm in the, squashed right in the middle of New York, out of nowhere, after 3 years of not even working, and into starring in a Broadway play. It's absolutely a miracle. It really is a miracle that I I got offered the part in the first place. It's a miracle that I even learned it. And it's a miracle that I'm sitting here in the dressing room talking to you right now, as far as I'm concerned.
What have you learned from Will Rogers? I hear a lot of Mag Davis-isms probably in there somewhere. You couldn't be that much different from him, are you?
Well, I'll tell you what, I honestly, every night before I do the show, I pray that to let Will Rogers' spirit flow through me, and to live my life like Will Rogers. That's what I've tried to do in this new half of my life, is try to approach life the same way that Will Rogers did, and find humor in things, and look at what the other guy's looking at before you judge him, and
Kind of thing.
my 3-year-old come walking down there. We were having he was not going to be not on stage with me, and he had his chaps on and his Stetson hat and his little suede vest. So I just come on up, you know. So it was like a sucker punch to the audience, you know. They were already teary-eyed from the ending of this thing. He came walking down there, and he walked up the steps, and I pulled him up, and I said, "Say howdy," and he took his hat off and said, "Howdy." It was just killer, man. He's got the stage itch. He's got the bug already.
I know, it's so kids make you young and give you a point to live. I mean, they just give you the whole reason. I guess that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
I know it had in my house. The song "Never Met a Man I Didn't Like." I wish you could, would it be imposing too much to play a little piece of that? I want to just.
I can't really.
Is that one of those songs you
play it
really
on
play,
the
or is it too
guitar.
hard?
No, it's.
It doesn't work
Yeah, no, it doesn't work on the guitar without the deal.
without the whole orchestra and the lushness.
Yeah, it's too much to ask of me. I don't know
We'll do
how to
it then.
play it. If I'd written it, I would. I can play that other one. I can do some of that.
I like that ecology song.
Yeah,
Is
look
that your
around.
song or is that their song?
No, that's all their songs.
That one, see, that
Yeah.
one sounded like you too. That's what's so odd
Yeah.
about this play. Some man wrote this. I mean, you've adapted it for your own style and everything. But I thought that was one you had picked up and plugged into the play.
No, they just, Cy Coleman wrote all the music, and Adolph Green and Betty Comden wrote all the lyrics, and they go back all the way to Singing in the Rain, and before that.
Hey, look me over.
Yeah, amazing. And that's what this is all about, though. They wanted old-fashioned music and old-fashioned lyrics, and that's because it was the Ziegfeld Follies, and that's where Will Rogers got his start. That's what I didn't envision when I first was offered the thing. I looked at it on paper and I went, this is the corniest thing I've ever seen in my life. I can't do this. But then when I found out, you know, when I saw it, what Tommy Tune had envisioned, it was totally different. It was the Ziegfeld Follies telling Will Rogers' life story with Will Rogers performing in it, which is, if that doesn't confuse you, nothing will.
Now,
But,
I know this thing, whatever that deal is, you had to have screwed that up a couple of times.
Oh, I still do every now and then. I think I
can't
did
wait till
last
somebody
night. You know.
boo-boos, you know.
You know, I screwed it up a lot in the beginning, but I started getting it. But I was getting more laughs out of it, more fun out of it if I did foul up. So I started for a while there. I got to where I would just foul up on purpose, because then I could catch back up, and it looked pretty cool. You know, I'd get all mixed up in it, and I would act like I'd go, oh yeah, you know, do that stuff. But now I just go on and plow through it, you know, for the sake of doing it. It's a lot of fun. The girls, everybody has fun. You can hear them giggling up on stage when people mess up, because it takes so much concentration to do it.
Do you listen to much music in your off time, really? Or you listen to talk radio or what?
I don't have much off time. I listen to country music. You know, here in New York, I listen to WYNY.
Are you into this new country thing with all these new artists?
Sure, I like what's happening. The problem is everybody's good. You know, there's nobody to put down. Everybody that's out there is good. So I can't.
I mean, New York's kind of gone kind of country crazy. I mean, it's written in the newspapers. They've got clubs up here. Used to have like one place you could go to hear country. Probably about 20 or 30 places now you can go. Why do you think that is? Why is New York biting into the country thing? This is not exactly Lubbock.
I think for the same reason that everybody else is. People are getting tired of hearing the same song on the radio all the time. You know, drugs, sex, and rock and roll, and on one station, and the next station is just one rap song after another, and all basically saying the same thing, and sideways. I'm not knocking it. I mean, there's a lot of people that love that stuff, but there's a lot of people that kind of long for lyrics again, you know, hearing things that they can identify with and they can understand. And I think country is getting a little more sophisticated. You know, it's getting a little more harder edged in one end of it. You know, what I guess country rock I'd call it. And then on the other end, it's getting more sophisticated melodically. You've got these, you know, real pretty melodies coming along, and the musicians are so good in Nashville now that you know, there's as good or better than anything in the country, and that's my theory. Is it's just good music, and people are longing to hear that now. And they'll flip on a country station because they know they're going to hear a song they can sing along with and understand.
Do you think it's a fad that New York and other places that are not normally country places are into it so much?
I don't think so at all. I don't think it's a fad. I think, well, country music, you know, everybody's always written it off for years and years, but it keeps coming back, you know, and it'll be with us forever. So I don't see it falling by the wayside anytime soon.
Well, you got anybody you need to say hello to in Nashville? Mel Tillis, I heard you doing something with him. Got anybody, any of your pals?
Hello to everybody in Nashville, and take me seriously. I apologize for not being with you and being there for you the last 3 years. I'm back, and I'll try to make up for it.